Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like, yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Drop Goal podcast. On today's episode we are joined by a player who has a Challenge Cup final victory to his name at just 23 years of age. It's the man himself, Matty Davis. Welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. Good to hear from you, pal. It's a real pleasure to be on your podcast, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a chat about a few things with you, mate.
Definitely. Let's waste no time and begin. So, growing up as a young lad in Warwickshire, which sports were you initially interested in, and when did rugby come into your life?
So growing up, I was I lived on right on the border of Warwickshire and Leicestershire, mate. So it was massive. Rugby union was massive down there, and I played rugby union for my local team, Hinckley, and and to be fair, mate, I didn't really play much else. I was massive on rugby, and my dad got me into that, and I've got two younger brothers that also play rugby. We played together a bit, like in the garden and things like that, and yeah, so we just from a young age, from about 5 or 6, mate, we started playing rugby union down the local club. Obviously, I had a dig at every sport, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
We played a bit of football, cricket, everything, the generic sports, mate. And but now we just took off with rugby and loved it, mate. That's what we'd do sort of every weekend. You'd be playing games and that. So yeah, that's it really, mate. I mean, I didn't play too much else. Like I was just obsessed with rugby. I got to sort of the age of like 13, 14, 15, and I'd be training every night, and I'd be playing for the school on the Saturday. I'd be playing for my club on the Sunday. It was just that's all I did really, mate, from a young age. That to be fair, obviously I always watched rugby league at a young age. On TV, I used to watch the Challenge Cup on BBC. I didn't have Sky back then at my home, but I remember watching the Challenge Cup on TV and always enjoyed watching that. And and as soon as I could play rugby league, really, I got a bit of a chance to. I did it at 17. So yeah, mate, it's a massive rugby union background from a young age, but then I was happy to pick up rugby league, when I was about sort of 16, 17.
Yeah. So like you said, when you were growing up, you used to play rugby a lot. You were an amateur for the Leicester Storm in the Conference League South, as well as featuring for the Midlands Regional Academy. At this point in your career, were you playing the game as an amateur for a little bit as fun, or did you know that you were destined to become a rugby league player?
That's mate. So when I played rugby union, I was at Leicester Tigers through the youth system. So I always wanted from day one when I was playing rugby as a young lad that I wanted to be professional. That was always my dream. That was always my goal. I never, I didn't do too well at school because I was just focused on being a rugby player. And so that was always my goal from day one, mate. And so I went to play league, and that was completely through one of my good friends from back home. He'd done a season at Leicester Storm the year before me, and he got me. I knew him through Tigers and through a few of the things, and he got me to come and play at Storm with him, and had a great, because in the Midlands they're not massive with rugby league, so they just play it for the summer. They play it for about 3 months over the summer. And so I went to play with him, and then I got picked up through the Midlands from that. And the Midlands Academy was a great structure. Actually, I don't think it's fully going now, but it was, I got into that academy system. It was a great structure that was going at Loughborough College, and we trained like a professional academy did. Played against the professional academy, the Super League academies. We played against a few Championship under 20 teams. And sort of from then on, mate, that's when I sort of first tasted, that sort of rugby environment, being in full time, and that camaraderie, the boys around you, and that sort of drove me massively. From being at the Midlands, it was actually a really good system run by a bloke, Steve Crooks, who
Mhm.
who I still keep in touch with now. You know, he's a great friend of mine, and he played for Hull FC. He worked at Hull KR, Hull FC, and he coached a few teams. And he came down and did a great job with the Midlands,
Yeah.
and it carried on for a few years. You know, there's the Midlands have actually produced some good players. You know, myself,
Yeah.
my brother that plays down at Broncos. There's
Mhm.
a lad called Jason Bass who plays over at York City Knights.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a few players there's a few players down at London that came through the Midlands system as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you know, it's done okay. It's done okay, but so yeah, I definitely when I was at the Midlands, you know, I definitely that it sort of drove me. You know, it drove me to do a bit more
Yeah.
um, and push myself. So yeah.
That's great. So whilst playing in the Midlands setup, you were spotted by the London Broncos head of youth, Darren Higgins, who then picked out you and Ben Gray to join the prestigious London Broncos Academy, which is known to produce some amazing rugby league talent. When you were chosen to join the Broncos Academy, was this a point in your career when you realised that you could actually make a living playing rugby league?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, I went Darren Higgins. I spoke to him about a few things. He wanted me to come down, so I went on a bit of a trial basis.
Yeah.
Trained for a week, and then I got chucked in. I started at back row against Hull KR. I remember my first game academy. So my first game was I got thrown in right in the deep end by Danny Ward, who was Wardy was the coach of the academy at the time.
Yeah.
And so Wardy put me in at back row, and I had a good game. And then I got signed up. Me and the lad that I went down and played with, we got signed up for the academy.
Yeah.
Pretty much the week after, mate. And yeah, you know, it was a big move because moving from back home, like Leicestershire way, Warwickshire way, down to London. You know,
Yeah.
I was 18 years old and hadn't really been away from home at all. So it was a
Mhm.
massive move, and you know, obviously financial thing that was always an issue, but you know, we just sort of got past it.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of sacrificed a lot of things a lot to sort of really push on and try and get to that sort of, you know, to be that professional player.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in
So
sorry,
yeah.
go on.
No, you go, mate. That's fine.
And in 2015, you were given an even bigger opportunity to move up the Broncos Academy and start training with the first team. When you initially started training with the first team, was there a noticeable skill gap between the academy? And if so, how did you adapt to training with the first team?
Yeah, I think there was a noticeable skill gap, but it was more just sort of the professionalism of you know, of the how you go about stuff day to day in
Yeah.
training, and you know, the skill does always have to be on, and the physicality is a lot more even in training. That was something that I hadn't really seen before.
Mhm.
Um, so, you know, I got that opportunity through Hendo,
Yeah.
who obviously I work with now at Warrington,
Mhm.
and then yeah, you know, the sort of the way I go about things, mate, I just work really hard. You know, that's the sort of player I am. I work hard and sort of test the waters a bit in training and just you know and just go hard in training and that's all. That's what I'm about. So nothing really changed too much for me in the sense that I was always going to do the same thing in any
Yeah.
environment that I'm in. I'm always going to work hard and give it me all. But yeah,
Mhm.
you definitely need to be on concentration wise, skill wise. You know, your focus levels need to be, you know, a lot higher than they would probably be at academy. But that just
Yeah.
comes natural when you're in that sort of environment and you know you have to sort of step up.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, for me, it helps because I'm always 100. You know, I'm always 100%, always 100 miles per hour with
Yeah.
everything that I do in rugby. So you know, my focus is always there. For me, it's you know, it's probably just knowing when to sort of settle myself down in different scenarios.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
but yeah, mate, there's definitely yeah, there's definitely a massive gap from academy to first team, and that's why so many lads drop out the system that
Yeah.
you know could potentially be good players in the future because you know you're expected to be a very good athlete and play at 18 years old when realistically, you know, some players mature later, some, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so it is a big gap, and only so many players can make it. Make
Yeah.
the gap, which is obvious. That's the best players, they can make that. So yeah.
Definitely. And in the same year you started training with the first team, you also made your debut with the Broncos. You made your debut on the 23rd of May in 2015 in a huge
Yeah.
46-6 victory over the Sheffield Eagles. What was it like to pull on the Broncos jersey on the day of your debut?
Yeah, it was great, mate. I think you know a bit more about my rugby than I do. I definitely wouldn't have known that I debuted on 23rd of May. But yeah, it was great, mate. That was the first summer bash, I think.
Yeah.
It was the first summer bash, and Hendo came out of retirement to play as well.
Mhm.
And it was, yeah, mate. It was a great. I think I only got on for the last 25 minutes, but yeah. So we played against Chef, and we did a really good job on them. And we were going through quite tough. It was a tough season. It was a
Yeah.
transition when obviously London got relegated, and a lot of players left. A lot,
Mm.
there was we had a very young team, and yeah, it was great, mate. It was great to sort of put a performance like that, and I definitely won't forget that day, for a lot of reasons. And um, yeah, it was very special, to make my debut for my friends and family that that have always sort of pushed, not pushed me, but looked up to me and always want me to work hard, and my family have done absolutely everything with me to take me here, there, and everywhere,
Yeah.
to play rugby. Yeah, I think it was just a proud moment for them, really. And my brothers, my two brothers looking up to me
Mhm.
as a role model. I think it was a proud moment for them. So yeah, that was great, mate. And I won't forget that. Sometimes you forget things, don't you? You
Yeah.
forget when when you started,
Mm.
and your debut and stuff like that. But it's always good to sort of look back and reflect on on some very important very important times of your life.
Yeah,
So
definitely. The
yeah,
day was also to be a day to be remembered for current Warrington Wolves assistant coach Andrew Henderson,
yeah.
who, like you said, was coming out of retirement for the Broncos. Did you feel any extra pressure to perform well on the day due to the fact that there was a new man there and this was your time to prove that you were ready for the first team rugby week in, week out?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, playing with your coach is very different. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was good to it was good to play with him. And I played a few games with Hendo. I probably played up to like maybe 10 games for the rest of the year, maybe
Yeah.
more, with Hendo in it. And I think he saw what I was about with quite similar people in a way,
Mhm.
and he saw what I was about as a player, and how hard I worked and stuff. And that obviously shows firsthand when you're sort of side by side with someone on a rugby field.
Yeah.
When you go into war with the bloke next to you, I think he saw what I was about,
Mhm.
and how hard I wanted to work for the boys around me and the team. So I think it was a massive help, mate.
Yeah.
Him playing with me, because he saw he saw what I was about. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it was good, mate. It was good, and um, he was always very honest with me performances.
Yeah.
We're very honest, like a very honest bloke, and coach and person. So it was good. We were on a good wavelength together. So yeah.
Definitely. And after making your debut for the Broncos, you were not a
Mm.
regular first team player. You played a couple of games, but you're also out on due registration quite a few times before
Mm.
cementing a spot in the Broncos squad. You went to the Hemel Stags in 2016 and the London Scholars in 2017. What is
Yeah.
your view
Yes.
on dual registration? And do you think it's a necessary concept to keep in our game in order to help grow young talent?
Uh, so in 2016, I played a game at I played a game at Hemel. I think I was just
Yeah.
at that time I was just I was a young lad. I was probably 19, very green to the game still,
Hmm.
probably making a few wrong decisions in a few different ways. But
Yeah.
but but yeah, I think. And then actually in 2017, I think 2017 it was. I'd just come back from an ACL reconstruction, so
Yeah.
I was able to play out at Scholars. I played against Toronto, and I remember it being Newcastle in
Yeah.
2017, and that sort of that gave me the opportunity to sort of get a bit of match fitness back for the first team.
Hmm.
Um, I think with dual registration, it is always a tough situation because you you go into a team that you don't train with at all, or
Yeah.
you don't know any of the boys, and you just expected to go there and play, and often the team that you go to might not be the best, or you
Yeah.
might be coming against a team that's a lot better, and you're sort of marked on your performance against a really good team and a team that
Mm.
you don't know any of the boys, you don't know the plays that you're putting on, so you just got to go and do your best, mate. And
Yeah.
my view on dual registration is that I don't I don't think coaches or of your parent club should always expect you to go there and be happy about it. I think the
Mhm.
reserves is a much better system because it's in the club.
Yeah.
It's kept in the club. The players are the same. You've got the same coaches. Maybe the assistant coach of the head of the first team might coach it or might be there on the day. The S&C, and the boys that are playing, they're either
Yeah.
younger, older academy lads or younger first team boys, and you want to try and improve them and help them where you can. So the reserve system is 1,000 times better in my opinion, and
Yeah.
dual reg was. I found at London a lot of the time, we didn't often get lads on dual reg at London. It was very rare.
Yeah.
I think we had a couple over the years, but not that I can remember too much. But we'd go and play Featherstone, and we wouldn't know who was playing. We wouldn't be able to really we'd analyse them, but
Yeah.
then we wouldn't know who was going to turn up from Leeds on that weekend.
Mm.
So and then we'd play Lee, and then you don't know who's going to turn up from Wigan that weekend, and it's it's fair, and you get on the job, but it's it's one of those things where, in my opinion, I'm not a huge fan of it personally, unless
Yeah.
um, and I mean, when I started at Warrington, I wasn't getting on too well at early doors. I had a really
Mhm.
good pre-season, but I didn't really I didn't get the opportunity early doors, and I had to go and play for Rochdale
Yeah.
for a month, which was obviously so hard because the year before I played against Rochdale for London and beating them by 80 points every
Wow.
game. So then you go up to Warrington, and then you have to get put on loan to Rochdale and play the likes of Toronto, and as you can imagine, mentally it's a tough situation.
Yeah.
But so that was hard. That's where I don't agree with it. But then I got to go on a month's loan back to London,
Yep.
who obviously I'd been promoted with to the Super League, and that was probably one of the best moves I'd made all season.
Yeah.
Throughout that season, because I got to play my first game. I was straight in there against St Helens. I played 65 minutes, and then we played Leeds
Yep.
at Headingley and beat Leeds, and then we played Hull FC in Huddersfield. So it was a great month, and we got a couple of decent results in there, and I think that showed Warrington that I could play at the Super League level for 60, 80 minutes a game in
Yeah.
the middle. So if I'm honest, mate, it's a tough one because I think the loan move's a good idea because sometimes some lads aren't ready or probably aren't at the standard to be
Yeah.
playing at that top team like Warrington.
Mhm.
So and then they can go away for a month or two to maybe a team that needs you to play and that you can definitely excel at,
Yeah.
which was good that London want me to come and do that. I was really thankful of Wardy, Langers, and the people around at
Mhm.
that point that I could do that to go and express myself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. My view on dual reg is that I don't agree with it, but I agree with loans and the reserve system certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked Andrew Henderson a similar question when he was on the podcast a couple of months back,
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask you the same question now. With playing rugby league down south being a big part in your career so far, there's clearly a lot of talent unearthed from London, such as yourself, LMS, Sargentson, Mike McMeekan, and Club, to name a few. What could the RFL do more to tap into this talent pool to further establish the game down south?
Do you know what? I think I think like that. I kind of, in a way, I think the RFL are just a bit naive to lads down south. Probably, it's always hard, when you're playing at London. No one sort of tends to sort of look
Yeah,
and sort of see what you're doing really, because you're down there on your own, and I think I wouldn't say it's. I don't know. I just think they probably turn a blind eye at the boys that come up through a southern system, because it's not where the game's played. It's not where the game's sort of nurtured and stuff. It's obviously up north.
yeah,
So I think they definitely turn a blind eye to a lot of lads, and there's some great players that sort of go missing um, just because they're not getting seen. They're not
yeah.
getting the exposure that lads get up north.
Mhm.
But you know, they actually have. There's a great system down in London in general, like a great youth system that they've got going.
Yeah,
That they actually play. I'm pretty sure they still do it. They play like an Origins, North versus South,
mhm.
in London. There's a few teams and stuff like that. So, but yeah, and with the Midlands, mate, the Midlands, there's some great players, but it's just about the exposure, and it's just teams up north don't really sort of give it a chance.
Yeah,
It's simple as that, mate. I don't think there's anything else about it, that teams just turn a complete blind, like coaches or I don't know, owners of academies or something like that. They just completely turn a blind eye from it,
mm.
and probably don't see um, you know, don't see the player for who they are, or what they can do on the rugby field, and just see them as someone that's probably not played the game for long enough, and just sort of that they're not bothered about it. And it does that it frustrates me, things like that, because you got some great lads that go missing, or that don't, that could potentially have a career in rugby league, and
Yeah,
they just get sort of thrown away because of people being in a way too obnoxious to sort of give them a chance.
mm.
And that's all sort of some lads want down there. They just want a chance to play a bit of rugby league, and there's a hell of a lot of talent, as you just named a few, and shown what they can do.
Yeah,
So, but it's you wonder, you know, London Academy set up, the amount of players um, that just like are on an absolute conveyor belt of talent down at the Broncos. That just I'm pretty sure in 2018, I'm pretty sure like 6 players debuted.
yeah,
Debuted. I remember my brother debuted, Dan Hindmarsh, Jakey Ogden.
yeah,
Um, there's a few more for sure. Like Rob Butler debuted.
yeah,
I think Gideon Boafa. There was probably about 6 or 7 lads that debuted from the academy, and that was in a year that we were pushing for Super League.
yeah,
So Danny Ward and Jamie Langley, they worked these boys up, and they were both academy coaches, so they had utmost trust in the boys, and to go out and do a job. So there's an absolute talent pool down in. Does definitely need to be looked at a lot more, but how the RFL could do it, I'm not sure. I think London are doing a great job in producing boys
yeah,
for the game in general, and that's shown over the years for sure. So I think it'll be, if London, if London can get back into the Super League, which is where they, in my opinion, they definitely belong.
yeah,
I don't think they should have. It's controversial, but they shouldn't have been relegated in 2019.
mm.
But if they can get back into the Super League, then that's where there'll be a lot more exposure about London, and it'll be just seen as for what it is, and a good club that produces top players.
Yeah, definitely. Uh,
So
and in 2018, you decided to leave the Broncos and join the Warrington
yeah,
Wolves for the 2019 season and onwards. Were there any other
yeah.
clubs interested in your signature? What made you choose Warrington?
At that time, I mean, London wanted to re-sign me at the start of the season, and that sort of they offered me Wardy offered me a contract early doors,
Yeah,
and I just sort of said to him from day one, I want to, I want to play Super League. That's my goal.
Yeah.
And what Warrington came in quite fairly early, I think. I remember signing towards the end of May, early June. So in terms of things, it was quite early. But before I really got the chance to speak to anyone else, I just signed at Warrington, mate. If I'm honest, they offered me a contract, and I just sort of I snapped it up straight away, signed it, and that was it. Just because I was, it wasn't the best of contracts at all. I'm not going to lie about that. It was pretty average to say the least.
Yeah.
But it's when you get an opportunity like that, a contract from Warrington, you can't turn it down, can you?
No.
So, and in hindsight, it was definitely the right thing to do. I've come here and played a fair few games, won a Challenge Cup final, and it's been good. It has been good. So, no, I don't think I remember having any clubs interested at the time. I might have had a bit, but I was so interested in signing for Warrington when they came in and when they were interested that I never really thought about anything else. So I signed that contract as soon as it came through. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Now, when you initially signed for Warrington, the Broncos were not certain to make the playoffs. However, London Broncos season hit form, and a winning streak which saw the Broncos undefeatable for months on end placed them in second position and playoff bound. You were a key player in the playoffs, making your final appearance for the Broncos in an 11-8 victory over Salford. Do you feel better knowing that you had ended your career in London on a high, being named Players Player of the Year, as well as that they'd be promoted to Super League the following year?
Yeah, definitely, mate. For me, it was really emotional because we went through in that 2018 season. I'd signed at Warrington early doors, and we went through a lot of up and downs. It was a massive roller coaster that year. I remember over the Easter period, we'd lost. I think we lost 3 games in a row, and it was hard to sort of see. I think we were sitting in 5th, but it was hard to see where we were going to come. And I think we went on a massive winning streak, and we were playing really well. We just managed to get into the 8s. I think we were sitting in I think we had to go to. We had to play Halifax at home, which we never. In my time at London, I don't think we ever won there. For 4 years, and then we had to play Barrow away, last game of the season, regular season before the 8s. So they're 3 really tough games, and we just managed to pull it out of the bag, mate. And then I think like you said, we finished in that second position. Completely the underdogs in the 8s. But we went to Widnes away first game, and Jazz Samet hit that drop goal to win the game, and that was unreal. And I think from there, mate, we just thought, well, we've not got anything to lose, so let's just go at it. And still, I think we had a few tough results. We just missed out. I think we drew with Featherstone in the 8s, and it was still really hard to see how we were going to get promoted, but we just kept going. And eventually, we beat Salford, which that was my last game. Unfortunately, I took a big whack to the side of my face and broke my cheekbone and my eye socket. So that was big thanks to my good friend Sadiq Edabayi for that one. So that it was upsetting for me that I finished that game and didn't finish in the £1 million game. But looking back at it, it was a great season, and I loved every bit of my time at London. And it's such a great club, great bunch of lads, and a great vibe that you could never rule out going back there in the future if it stays the same.
Definitely.
But I think I had massive respect from the boys, and I assume that's why I got Players Player. There's so many lads that could have got it that year. Pitsy, our captain, was class that year. Reece Williams, the winger. There's so many players. Kieran Dixon was class. So many players that were great in that year. So yeah, I was really proud to win that, and I'm pretty sure I shed a bit of a tear, in our awards ceremony when I won that, and I went up on stage and was talking, and it was tough, mate, because they like from when I was sort of 17, 18, I grew up with them, a lot of them lads, and to be leaving and then seeing the boys going to Super League as well was just massive. So I definitely like accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in my time at London as a young lad.
Yeah,
Like to help them get promoted to Super League, and with a lot of my really good mates. Wardy and Langers are great mates of mine, and for them to sort of do it as coaches was massive, and
yeah,
wanting to play for them lads, that was great.
yeah.
So yeah, absolutely no regrets. Uh, when I was there, it took me a bit of time to sort of get going.
Mhm.
Like as you said, I had to play a bit of dual reg, but and when I was back from the injury, sort of mid 2017, I started picking it up, and then had a great season in 2018 with the
Yeah,
boys. So as a bit of a me breakthrough season, as you could say. So yeah.
yeah. And when you joined the Warrington Wolves, your career at the Broncos was not yet over, as you did go back on a month's loan. With your time at the club in 2019, would you say that the Broncos had the strength in their squad to stay up that year? And if so, what do you think they could have done better in order to retain the place in Super League?
So yeah, I mean, I definitely think they had the strength in the squad. They signed Yatesy,
Yeah,
Luke Yates, who was absolutely great that year in 2019. He absolutely killed it from day one, and signed a few of the boys that helped the team out massively, like Morg Smith and Jordan Abdul, the halfbacks. They did a really good job, but they only just missed out. They could have. They played Wakefield, I remember, last game of the season, and I just wish, I just wish. I wish the sort of system was a bit different,
yeah,
and they didn't have to get relegated, because there was no way they deserved to get relegated after winning. I can't remember how many games they won. I think it was about 10
mm,
games, and that was the most a bottom position team has won in so many years. I
yeah,
think Widnes won 3 games the year before, and they didn't get relegated
yeah,
because of the Super 8 system. And I don't think London, if they kept the Super 8 system, they'd have never ever have gone down that year. They were just they're a team that never goes away. That was always the philosophy that they had down there, and
yeah,
you always work hard for your mates, and you never give up. So um, and it showed massively in that Super League year. That I think even in that Leeds game that I played in when we won in
yeah,
April, I think it was March probably. We
mm,
were we were doing well at half time. Then I think we went about 3 tries down, and we brought it back and won in the last minute of the game. So it just sort of shows what mentality the boys had in that 2019 season, and it massively showed. With I think they ended up with 20 something points, which is not
yeah,
it's not bad going at all in the first year of Super League after 5 years.
mm,
Um, so it's disappointed to that they went down, because I just think that if the league structure was different, they would have easily stayed up, and
yeah,
it was just a shame. It was just a shame, really. But things happen, and I definitely do think they had the strength. There was probably a few times where a few games got away from them. I remember watching the game against Leeds at the Magic Weekend, and they had it in the balance, and
yeah,
just a few things didn't go their way. Simple as. But you can't. It is what it is. They got relegated, and they'll be building now to get back up to Super League. So yeah, it happens, mate. But I'm sure it'll um, them young lads that sort of tasted that experience of Super League, and in that 2019 season will definitely help them get back up.
sorry we lost you then.
Yeah, that's all right. Where did you get to, mate?
You going on about the lads in the 2019 squad with the Super League experience, it will help
Hmm.
them get back up.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, so I think them young lads that have tasted that Super League, that'll help them progress, hopefully this year, next year, and see what happens. See what happens from there, pal.
Definitely. And after returning from your month's loan, you became a frequent starter in the Wolves squad. Was it hard to
Hmm.
adjust to the Warrington style of play when you initially arrived at the club? And was there a noticeable skill gap between Super League and the Championship?
Um, I think yeah. So I don't think it wasn't hard to sort of mold myself in with the boys at Warrington. And we play a pretty good style of rugby.
Yeah,
And it's when you're playing with better players, you kind of with the top players, like your Blake Austin, your Toby Kings, and your Daz Clark's, people like that,
Yeah.
and a good set of middles. You just need to look after your own job. You know, you look after your own job, and everyone else looks after their own job, and then things come to fruition. In in the end.
Yeah.
So it is different, but no, it was really easy to fit in, mate. If I'm honest,
Yeah.
really easy to fit in. And the difference between the Championship and the Super League, like, I think people knock the Championship a fair bit, but at the end of the day, you're playing against some good lads. You're playing against lads that probably can play Super League,
Yeah, definitely.
but just haven't had the chance, or they're working part time, and that's not what they want to do. That's not their ambition. But
Yeah.
they come out every weekend after doing it tough, working and training. Probably not getting paid too much, and then
Yeah.
they're coming out and putting their bodies on the line, really. And it's tough, mate. You got some big lads in the Championship. It's definitely a lot slower. The game's a lot slower in the Champ, but that also makes the collisions a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And the wrestle quite important. When the way that London, when I was there, London played, because we're a full-time outfit, and we played on the 4G pitch down at Ealing Trailfinders.
Yeah.
We caught so many teams off guard, like they couldn't get close to us because we played a fast game of rugby.
Mm-hmm.
But when from February to the end of April, you're in the mud slogging it out against teams like Halifax, Matley, at some very, very tough grounds, and it was in some ways a lot harder than playing in Super League.
Yeah.
But obviously the skill is a massive factor. That is the difference. The skill, but the speed is the main thing. Definitely, speed is the main thing. I had some real fast-paced games in the Championship, like against Toronto and Toulouse, but then they're sort of like you'd probably say they'd go okay in the Super League in some games, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I did have some very fast-paced games against them teams, or maybe even Fev, and Halifax at times. But I think the main thing for me, mate, in being a player in the middle and playing good minutes and making a lot of tackles is just that I notice is the speed, really, the speed of the ruck, and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. We'll move a couple months onward now, and you're preparing for undoubtedly the biggest game in your career to date, the Challenge Cup final. What did it feel like to stand in Wembley Stadium in front of 60,000 people at such a young age?
Yeah, mate, it was great. It's sort of, looking back on it now, it's just a massive blur. I've got to sort of look at like the videos and of the game back and the pictures to sort of really remember it. But it was just all a massive blur to me, mate. And I was so obsessed about playing in that game, like the weeks before, that I probably didn't think about anything else.
Yeah.
It just all came. It came so fast. It was such a hot day. I remember more sitting on the bench, just sweating like mad, and trying to stay cool before I went on. So yeah, mate, it was an unreal day, and it was great to get that win. It was one of the best days of my life, obviously. And I was just happy that my family and me friends could come, and watch me play in that sort of arena.
Yeah.
I tend to not sort of think about things too much and worry about things too much. I was nervous, obviously, but I think my family were a lot more nervous than me. But it was great. Yeah, it was a great day, and so I'm so happy that we got the win. The boys just pulled it out of the bag completely.
Yeah.
And I was just happy to be a part of that team that won the Challenge Cup in 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. And coming into the game as underdogs, as well as having to adjust due to marquee player Blake Austin being out injured, what did Steve Price and the Wolves squad do to learn from their mistakes back in 2018 and give themselves the best possible chance of getting the win?
Yeah, so, obviously for me personally, I didn't play in 2018. I'd never experienced anything like that, so it was new to me. But I think we just kept everything simple. Our game plan was so simple, and it was just the thing we did on the day. We just stuck to the game plan so well, and we did the little things right, and say it just blew Saints away. Really, I don't think they knew how to deal with that. I don't think we hadn't even beaten Saints all through that year.
No.
So we just did things a bit differently with our game plan, and that helped us massively.
Yeah.
So it, we kept things simple. You know, it was an emotional one, you know, before the game and
Mm.
leading up to the game. You know, we wore hearts on our sleeves with each other, and
Yeah.
it felt like a real tight knit group. But from that week where, from when we beat Hull FC in the semi final, even though
Mhm.
we had a few rough fixtures, I think we got nilled by Wigan the week before 20-0.
Yeah.
There was still not really much doubt in us throughout that week, that Challenge Cup week, that we were ever going to lose that game.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were never even spoke about that. I don't even think I thought about losing the game once. It
Mm.
never even entered my mind. And when you know when we were in the tunnel before the game,
Yeah.
we were very relaxed. You know, I was speaking with the lads. I remember shaking hands with Prince Harry and I had a
Yeah.
bit of a laugh and joke with him. I remember standing at the back, at the back with Philbs, Jace Clark, just
Yeah.
having a chat. Really, you know, just being quite calm, and all the Saints boys were, you know, huffing and panting, and they looked very, very up for it. But
Yeah.
you know, realistically, you have to wait in the tunnel for a bide with me for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Then you have to walk out on the pitch to, I think it was like 34 degrees on that day.
Yeah.
Walk onto the pitch, and then you have to shake hands. So you're looking at like a 10-minute interval before the game even starts.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we stayed really calm, and I think we did some good bits, um, and yeah, it just worked, mate. You know, everything on that day just worked for us, which was great. It just came to fruition, and just um, and and it just happened for us. So I think we were all massively on. All the boys, you know, they were massively on that day, and it just showed. So yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a day to be remembered. Now, with the
Mm.
recent news that Super League will be returning on the 2nd of August, what are you and the Warrington Wolves putting into place to make sure everyone is fit and ready to play again when Super League returns?
So yeah, so today, for instance, I've been training with Jake Mamo.
Yeah.
We've been down to we've trained in a just in our own gym and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Not in the Warrington one, but I've got my own makeshift gym.
Yeah.
And then we went to do a bit of running down at Culture Eagles
Mhm.
amateur clubs facilities. So I think there's not anything set in place, mate. Really, it's, you know, the essence is obviously always keep tabs, but um, we we're just expected to keep fit the whole time, and we're back soon. We'll be back, I'm pretty sure, in the next few weeks. So we're ready for our first game. So
Definitely.
it's sort of on yourself to sort of keep fit and in shape, isn't it? You know, else you're going to
Yeah.
come back and you're really going to struggle, or you're prone to injury. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, mate. There's not, obviously, because of like certain things with furlough and stuff. You can't, you know, you can't. It's not always as simple to you have to basically, we have to do things off our own back. So which is sweet.
Yeah.
You know, you sort of know what you're doing, and you've been in the game for long enough that you know what sort of training you need to do to come back ready.
Yeah.
So I think now it's just about picking up the high speed running, ready for when we're back in a few weeks,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll be able to hit the ground running really well, and all the boys have been keeping fit and fresh and healthy. So that's
Yeah.
the main thing.
Definitely. So, with your early stages of Warrington's career, you've shown some
Yeah.
great promise with versatility and a great work ethic. Where do you see your future at the club?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm out of contract this year with Warrington.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, first and foremost, I want to obviously have a really good end to the season when we're back in,
Yeah.
and just see where that takes me, mate. If I'm honest, so um, you know, it's been a good club to be at so far, and
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed it. You know, I've done some good bits, and I've played 20, maybe up to 23, 24 games now with the Challenge
Yeah.
Cup, and you know, I really feel, for me as a player, that I want, you know, I do want to cement down the loose forward spot, that 13 position.
Mm.
But you know, there's some good players that are they're battling out for it as well. So it's always tough, but
Yeah.
you know, that's my aspiration of you know, nailing down that 13 spot, certainly for the rest of this season,
Mhm.
and just seeing where that takes me, really, mate, and going from there. But yeah, I think I see myself, doing a good job. I've done a good job so far at Warrington.
Yeah,
And, I hope that sort of other people can see that in a way, and that I work hard. My work ethic's good. I won't always do the flashy things, but
yeah.
I'll do the tough stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so it's obviously I can't say too much about what the future holds for me,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm enjoying it at Warrington, and I'm fully committed to these boys and my teammates and the coaches for the rest of the season for sure. Yeah.
definitely.
So yeah.
To finish off the podcast, we'll do some quick fire questions. So let's get
Yep.
started. Question one: who's the first out onto the pitch in training?
Probably gotta say Toby King.
All right. Question two: is there a player you aspired to be like when growing up?
When I was a young lad growing
Yeah,
up?
yeah.
Yeah, like obviously played rugby union, didn't I? So I was obsessed
Mhm.
about Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Growing up, yeah. So yeah, I'd have to be Johnny Wilkinson, I'd say, mate. Yeah.
All right. Question three: who's the first to have a pint after a match?
First time a pint. Probably Tommy Lynham.
All right. Question four: at half time, if the boys aren't having a good game, who's the biggest motivator?
Um, Probably Chris Hill, Mark Cooper. Probably Mark Cooper. Yeah, Mark Cooper's pretty good.
All right. Question five: is there a player that always arrives late?
Always arrives late. That's a good question. Not really, mate, because we get fined for being late. So
Yeah.
no one's really that late. I can't think of who would be late. I've not got one for that, mate. I can't think of who would be late if I'm honest.
No worries. And finally, question six: who's the hardest player you've ever had to tackle?
Hardest player I've ever had to tackle. Uh, well, you put me on the spot there. Uh, Sam Cassiano was tough.
Yeah.
Playing against Catalan a few times. He's obviously a big lad.
Mhm.
Um, well, do you know what? One of the hardest players to tackle because of how fast and agility wise is Regan Grace. He's honestly
Yeah.
an absolute handful. Um, so yeah, I'd say like for the other reasons, Regan Grace is hard because you're lining up to tackle him and then he's just gone. He
Yeah.
just puts a bit of footwork on and he's gone. But I'd say Sam Cassiano for the size of him he's very hard to tackle and he's a big thing. Um, Also, Fui more and more when I first started playing and I was like
Yeah.
19, having to play against him for Lee
Mm.
was that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
So I'd say Fui was a tough. Um, he had low centre of gravity. He was a big lad and he
Yep.
was fast. So yeah, Fui was a pretty tough player to handle back then. Yeah.
Definitely. So before we finish off the podcast, do you have anything to say to the young listeners who are trying to make it in the world of rugby league?
Yeah, definitely. The main thing that sort of I learned growing up is just to try your best at everything. I'm for me personally, I'm not the biggest, I'm not fastest or strongest at all, but I worked really hard for what I've got, and
Yeah.
it's just about putting your time and effort and enthusiasm into what you're wanting to do in any form of life, whether you want to be a rugby player, whether you want to be, a doctor or a surgeon, a dentist. If you want to be a fireman or a policeman, as long as you put all your effort into that and you work so hard, then I think it will come about. Things start happening once you're putting the effort in and you're enthusiastic about what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
So that's something that I definitely learned, that um, you get out what you put in basically, and that's just sort of what I've gone off for a long time now,
Yeah.
and it's paying off. It's slowly paying off for me. So just to the young listeners that are listening, just follow your dreams, because I don't think any dream's too big really. No dream's too big, and whatever you want to do, you can definitely accomplish in the future, as long as you just put your mind to it and you're having fun. You're having fun during the time, and you're enjoying yourself. So yeah.
Definitely. So thanks for joining us today, Matty. It's been a great episode.
That's all right, mate.
I'm looking forward to seeing you and the Warrington lads back out on the field soon, and hopefully myself as a Warrington fan and the other loyal Warrington fans will be back at the HJ cheering you on soon. Once again, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Stay safe, and hopefully I can get you back on the podcast again sometime in the future. All the best, mate.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Anytime. It's been great speaking to you guys, pal.
You too. Thanks, mate.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the, y'all